Oh hi. Rimini, the largest Italian resort on the Adriatic coast with the population of 150,590 inhabitants, the capital of the province of the same name in Emilia-Romagna. Rimini is a symbol of the Adriatic coast of Romagna. It is located on the bank of the Adriatic Sea, between the Marecchia and Osa rivers, in several kilometers from Mount Titano and the state of San Marino. Hometown of F. Fellini. It is the main and most densely populated city on the Romagnolsky coast, the second largest city by the number of inhabitants, after Ravenna. In all Romagna, and the 28th largest city of Italy. The patron of the city is Saint Gaudency from Rimini, celebration on October 14. In the I millennium BB there was here a settlement of Etruscans who were probably replaced later by Umbra. In the 6th century BB these places were won by Gauls. Though there are no remained monuments of the Gallic period in Rimini, Gauls played a considerable role in the history of the settlement, which over time became one of the major, along with the next Ravenna, ports of the Adriatic Sea. About 283 years BB the city returned probably to Umbra. Lived here in Samnita and also Greeks, about whose presence tell the fragments of the Aegean ceramics found at excavation. In 268 BB Romans founded here, in the mouth of the Rimini River, modern Marecchia, the colony which had to serve as a strong point of demanding invasions of Gauls and also the base for gaining the Padansky plain. The colony received the name Rimini. It is probable by the name of the river. Rimini became the important transport center connecting the central and northern Italy. Here 3 Roman roads met. Viaduct Flaminia. Flaminia Road, 220 of BB. Beginning at Gate of Rome. Viaduct Aemilia. Is expensive Aemilia, 187 BB. Which was going north further to the city of Placentia. Modern Piacenza. Who gave the name to the present region Emilia-Romagna. Viaduct Popiliania. Popiliania Road, 132 of BB. Continuing Viaduct Flaminia in the northeast direction through Ravenna, Patavia. Modern Padua. To Tergest. Modern Trieste. There was a port through which there was a sea and river trade, having also considerable military value. Rimini was involved in civil wars, supporting at first Guy Maria and then Guy Julius Caesar. Caesar, having made the key decision on a campaign to Rome on the bank of the river Rubicon flowing to the north from Rimini, exactly here, at Rimini's forum addressed troops with the requirement about support of his decision. In the first centuries of our era Rimini used attention of many emperors. What a number of the monuments which remained up to now, in particular, Augustus's Arch, Tiberia Bridge, theatre and an amphitheatre testifies to. The city prospered. That is well illustrated by materials of archaeological excavations, for example, of the so-called House of the Surgeon, of the 2-3 centuries in which numerous mosaics remained, and the surgical instruments which are stored today in the Museum of Rimini are found. Together with barbaric invasions, the period of decline of the city which is exposed to destructions begins. The population during this period is reduced. In 359 the church cathedral, at which there were about 400 bishops of the western part of the Christian world, gathers in Rimini. East bishops gathered at the same time in Seleucia. The cathedral in general recognized the Nicene Creed, having made, however, one important retreat about Christ's birth, from the further before of centuries, that allowed to reach the agreement with a considerable part of adherents of the Arian doctrine. In 493 Rimini was captured by Gats, and in 553 is released by Byzantines, and since then was a part of the Ravenski Exarchate of the Byzantine Empire. By this time the second blossoming of the city, which again became one of the major shopping and cultural centers, belongs. In 728 G Rimini was captured by Lombards, but again passed about 735 G to Byzantium. In 751 Lombards won a final victory over Byzantines, having won from them all territory of the Ravenski Exarchate. In 754 the king of Franks Pipin Korotký by agreement with the Pope exempts Ravenna and the neighboring cities from the power of Lombards and transfers them to the Holy See. Rimini appears as a part of the papal state created in 756. As the secular sovereign, the father actually was a vassal of the King of Franks, and the papal states became a part of Frankish Empire, which developed at Charles the Great, at which section Rimini and its vicinities join in Median. 843-855. And later Italian. 855-962. The kingdoms entering the empire. In 962 the title of the King of Italy was connected to a title of the Emperor of again formed Sacred Roman Empire. Degree of the autonomy of Rimini throughout all time of entry into structure of the empire and the papal states changed. When in the 12th century of the father step by step began to take the papal states under the control and fight of fathers and emperors began, Rimini joined party of Ghibellin. The emperor's supporters. That as a result led to the political crisis in the city, aggravating in process of progressive papacy. In 1274 the Emperor Rudolf I officially recognizes independence of the papal states of the empire, and in 1295 fathers take Rimini, where the party of Guelph, supporters of papacy, wins under the control. The city economy from the beginning of the Middle Ages underwent significant changes. The population gradually decreased and passed to occupation with agriculture. The territory of urban development was sharply reduced, fields appeared even in city walls. This turn was connected with appearance in Rimini of Malatest's family, one of representatives of which, Malatest di Verruccio, 1213-1312, been born in the city of Verruccio. In 1239 was appointed the Rimini podest, and in 1295 became the only owner of the city, having achieved exile of the family of Percitodi, leading party of Ghibellin, and murder of their leaders in Rimini. With coming to power of Malatest in Rimini, the period of free communes comes to an end. Malatesta gradually extended the power to adjacent territories of Romagna and became stronger as centers of Rimini, where they with breaks held the power till 1528. The son Malatesta di Verruccio, Giovanni Malatesta, nicknamed Gianciotto, remained in the history as the murderer of the wife Francesca and the brother Paolo, overtaken by him during an adultery. 1285 or 1289. Francesca and Paolo's love was described by Dante Alighieri in The Divine Comedy, and became a plot of several literary and pieces of music, including the opera by D. Rossini. After Malatesti's death, he was replaced by the son Malatestino. I governed from 1312 to 1317. Then Pandolfo I governed in 1317-1326. Ordering papal troops at suppression of a performance of Ghibellin in Urbino in 1321, became the Signor of Rimini, the last Ferentino Malatest successor. I governed in 1326-1330. As a result of family intrigues, lost the power and management of Rimini for several years, passed to the papal legate. In 1334 Ferentino returned to the power, but in 1335 Malatesta II conceded it to the ruling Rimini till 1363. Further governors of Rimini were Malatesta Ungaro from 1363 to 1372. Galita I Malatesta from 1363 to 1375, who was also the papal commander-in-chief and collected all Romagna, Carlo of the I Malatest under the power of Malatest from 1372 to 1429. Ordering allied troops of the Pope, Venice and Florence during the war in Lombardy, Galita II Malatest from 1429 to 1432. And at last, Sigismondo Pandolfo Malatesta, famous as the Wolf of Romagna. Sigismondo was a governor of Rimini, Fano and Cesena from 1432 to 1468 and became famous as one of the best Italian commanders of the time. Having entered at the end of life the conflict with the father, he lost a considerable part of the possession. The conflict with papacy continued also at Sigismondo Roberto Malatest's successors. I governed in 1468-1482, and Pandolfo of the Four Malatest. I governed in 1482-1500. Pandolfo of IV was expelled from Rimini by troops of Cesare Borgia, the son Father Alexander of VI. In 1503, 1522, 1523 and 1527, 1528 himself managed to return Malatesta for the short period of power in Rimini, but the era of their board already ended. Further papal legates run the city. In the 14th century in the city, numerous monasteries and churches were under construction that involved many outstanding artists in Rimini. In the 1310th years, Giotto di Bondone painting Franciscan orders churches works here. The Byzantine philosopher Plyphon, 1360-1452, had many admirers in Rimini. By order of Sigismondo Malatesta in 1475, his ashes were taken secretly out to Rimini from the Greek peninsula of Peloponnese occupied by Turks. In 1797 the city was occupied by the French. In 1860 I was a part of the Italian kingdom. In World War I was in a zone of actions of the Austrian fleet. In World War II it appeared on the front line. It was partially destroyed, taken by the Greek and Canadian parts in September 1944. The name Crew of Rimini was appropriated to the Greek crew, which caused a stir at capture of Rimini. Sites remind constructions of times of Augustus and Tiberi, of antiquity of the city, the arch bridge and a triumphal arch, and also amphitheater ruins. certain medieval temples and palaces, including a sample of the large public building of the 14th century, Palazzo del Podesta, are interesting. From Sigismondo Malatesta Constructions 50. B. Alberti's masterpiece, the family temple reconstructed from Franciscan Church Malatesta. Tempio Malatestiano. Decorated with reliefs which were perceived as pagan in due time remained. From Malatesta lock put in 1437 and city walls only fragments survived. Other known temple in Rimini is St. Augustine's Church. Eitel. Russian 13th century in which there are Catholic Blessed Alberto Marvelli's relics. Besides, according to the legend in San Nicolo's Church de Port. Cesare Battisti Square. Since 1177 has a particle of relics of Saint Nicolai, a bone of the left hand. Resort suburbs of modern Rimini stretched along the Adriatic beach for 16 km, from Tor Pedrera to Miramare. At the cemetery of the city, Federico Fellini and Giulietta Massina are buried. The city is port on the Adriatic Sea. In 8 km from the city in the town of Miramare there is an airport of Rimini, the international airport of Federico Fellini. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.